Hey, it's Jason from Bohemia Bees, and in this video, we're going to talk about what you should be looking for in your colonies, or really outside your colonies, on that first mild day in your region where you keep bees and you've overwintered them. Stay tuned, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we look for on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Okay, so we're looking at a couple colonies here. This is just one of our yards. We've got a couple empty spots on the bench here. That doesn't mean that we had dead outs. That just means that we didn't overwinter colonies. So we just didn't end up using this yard as much. This is sort of our test yard as well. As you can see, we got a couple different setups in here. We've done a couple double stack nukes, as you can see. We've got the apiary in there, which did very well with that late season swarm. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And of course, we got a single deep down here as well with some unique coating on the outside of it, painted black. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you should be looking for as a beekeeper in the spring, when you are wondering to get, what's going on. Have my bees made it through the winter? What should I look for? Can I crack open the hives on that first 60-degree day, 55, 60-degree day? What would you do? So when you look at a colony, when I teach, people who are new to beekeeping what to look for, is I look for activity, right? The first thing you want to look for is activity in front of the hive. If you have lower activity, then chances are that means a lower population, right? It translates to a lower population. Now, granted, right now the sun's creeping down below the trees, so there aren't as many active out right now as they were earlier. But if you look down there, you just saw a bee go in there, and they're peeking out up here. You'll watch bees come in here, and you can see what she just brought in. She just brought in some pollen, and it was a light green pollen. That light green pollen is common right now. They're finding that in the tree lines where there's blossoms. It's also the crocuses, the early crocuses, and the maples are producing a little bit of pollen for them to bring in. The crocus will be a brighter orange typically, and your maples may be more that light green or yellowish pollen that you see that they're bringing in, that one bee just brought in there. You'll see that as she's coming in now. So that's what I look for. I resist the urge to break into these colonies. Everybody wants to just crack open the hives, pull frames out. I discourage that, and I resist that urge, because even though it's warmer out, remember, our lows, as you can see here, for this week and going into next week, are still getting into that freezing range. These bees will still cluster up at night pretty tight, and they still have a very small brood's nest that's starting to emerge. And by the fact they're bringing in pollen, that's a good sign. They're bringing in pollen, which is a protein. They need that protein to combine that with nectar or honey to make bee bread, and that's what they feed the larvae. So if they're bringing in pollen, chances are they have brood that they're trying to feed, right? So it may be a small amount of brood. This would be a great time to potentially treat your hives. Test and treat I always recommend to test then treat, but during the winter like this, I don't want to break into them. I don't want to break that propolis envelope. Still too early for me. As I showed you, the temperatures are still going to creep down to be freezing, and they're going to cluster up. And I don't want to disturb anything that the bees have set up when those average temperatures are above 60, because propolis will harden when it's colder, right? And it won't re-glue, it won't reseal. So if I'm breaking frames out and I'm pulling out just to see brood, just to see what's going on in these colonies, I'm breaking that propolis envelope. And by breaking that propolis envelope, I'm disturbing the nest. And what small nest that's probably there. The nest is very small, probably the size of like grapefruit maybe. And it's growing though. Since the 21st of December, when the winter solstice occurred, the days are getting longer, it stays light longer, and the temperatures have been milder, at least this past week. So that means that brood's nest is starting to grow bigger and bigger. So here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, we watch the activity in the front of the hive. When the sun's out and it's a little bit warmer, above 50 degrees, they go out and do their cleansing flights. They stretch their wings. They look for any remote forage that would be around. So a little bit of pollen with the maples, like I mentioned, the crocuses, that early source of food to bring back to the colony. They're going to start to grow that cluster. And then as we progress over the next few weeks, the amount of bees that will be emerging out over the next 21 days or the next few cycles, you will see a lot more bees in these colonies, a lot more activity in the front of the hive, and they'll be bringing in a lot more pollen and even the nectar, right? So the nectar will start to be as well emerging on some of the floral, the flower that pops out in this area, in this region of the country. It's different in your region though, so you should know what's going to be producing in your region. That's always important to understand what's producing so that you can see the timing of when you dig into your hives. It's okay to inspect a hive. I usually pull a lid off, peek down in, look for the volume, where that cluster is at, right? Because that's important. If you have a good voluminous cluster, you want to be aware of that if you're in a single deep, for example, like you see behind me. They have a really big cluster. I would be concerned about potentially them growing too fast and not have enough room and then potentially swarming. So if I have a double deep like this, likely that cluster is in about the size, like I said, of a grapefruit up top. And that cluster will still have room to grow back into that. I might flip some bottoms into tops if they're primarily nested in the top and building brood there. You don't have to do that. The bees will naturally do that, but a lot of beekeepers will do that. They flip those boxes. I'm not putting honey supers on yet. That's one key thing. I'm not looking to make honey right now. I'm letting these bees get back out of winter and making sure that they're going to survive the next few weeks. Feeding them is important. If you can feed them, that's great. Bucket feeders on top, internal feeders, probably not, it's too late to have them in unless you already have them in. I wouldn't recommend having feed open display. So for example, those Fordham feeders that you put on the front of the colonies, I would not recommend that this time of year. And a weaker colony you should be aware of as well. If they have good honey stores and not a lot of bee volume to protect that entrance, you want to make sure you put your robbing screens on, because this time of year, robbing can occur as well from the stronger hives trying to pillage from the weaker hives. So remember, don't be so quick to want to jump into your hives and rip frames out and look at those bees. They still have not quite made it through winter. We still got a couple more weeks, so we need to be cautious and prudent about what we do. So remember, don't be so quick to jump into your hives and rip out those frames and start breaking that propolis envelope. Watch for activity on the front. See that they're cleaning out their dead. You might want to use one of those scrapers to come in and pull out. We sell them on our website. You can check them out on bohemiabees.com. You can use your hive tool or a stick. Clean out the dead bees in the entrance. If the bees are bringing out the dead on a warm day, that's a good sign of a strong hive. You want to make sure you watch that as well. Make notes as to the hives that will need your attention as you progress the next 30 days from mid-February to mid-March. That's really a critical time, making sure that they don't run out of resources while there's limited resources out right now currently. So again, I would discourage you from wanting to dig into your hives, but be cautious, be diligent, and see what you have on a nice warm day, nice mild day. Watch the average temperature and continue to prepare your equipment and what you need as the spring arrives here in your apiary and your neck of the woods, not necessarily our neck of the woods. Again, thanks for watching. I appreciate all the support. We had a great year last year. We have a lot of things in store on the channel this year to really get into some tests, get into some other projects that we have. We have some really big announcements to make. So please hit the subscribe button down in the corner. It really helps us out. Follow along, hit the alerts button too. Just hitting the subscribe button, you got to check us out. You got to come back and see what we're going to do, because we do some really cool stuff with the bees here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. We love to talk about bees. We love sharing the content, but we need your support to do it. So hit the subscribe button, hit the alerts button. Comment below if you're a beekeeper, if you're just watching along and you're just enjoying. Check us out on bohemiabees.com. We've got local honey that we can ship anywhere in the country. We've got beeswax products and all sorts of equipment that we've tested that we like in our Bohemia Bees store. And don't forget the merch. You got to get a hat, right? So thanks for watching, everyone, and check us out here in another week or so when we put another video out. We're probably going to have one here on the Hive Life Conference coming up. Some people have asked me about that. We'll put that out here very shortly. So thanks for watching, everyone, and get ready. Spring's a knocking. So, because here at Bohemia Apiary, beekeeping is definitely more than a hobby. It's an obsession. Thanks for watching, everyone.